Hey book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I'm filming an ebook haul. I don't normally do these. I buy loads and loads of ebooks on the Kindle, but I don't usually bother to haul them. But for the first time ever in May, I actually kept track of how many ebooks I bought, and it was a lot. So I decided to do a haul video, which isn't why I kept track of them. I kept track to see how much money I was spending on them. But yeah, so that's what this is. Apologies if my voice is still a little croaky. I have been ill. I had a chest infection for about 2 weeks and I'm still kind of recovering, so I'm not 100%, but yeah, if I'm croaky, that's why. So the first book I got was Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Cori McCarthy. So this is a science fiction, queer, futuristic retelling of the King Arthur mythos. That's basically all I know about it. It has a beautiful cover. It's got all these pinks and blues going on. I've read The Lost Coast by Amy Rose Capetta. I got an e-arc of that and I absolutely loved it, and I'm looking forward to this immensely. I've heard really good things about it. It's got quite a lot of hype at the moment. I'm not the biggest sci-fi fan, but I think the other things will override that, and I am quite interested in the King Arthur mythos, so hopefully this will be a win. The next book I got was How Do You Like Me Now by Holly Bourne. This was kind of an impulse buy because I know Nicole from Beautiful Chaos Books really likes Holly Bourne, and this was on the Kindle daily deals. I'm not gonna lie, most of these are with Kindle daily deals, so a lot of them are impulse buys. But this is an adult fiction book about a woman who is, she's kind of become famous because she wrote this memoir, and a lot of women look up to her and she's kind of an inspiration, but her life falls apart a little because she's turning 30 and her boyfriend shows no signs of wanting to marry her. So I think it's about her following the advice from her own memoir and kind of trying to get her life into gear. I don't know when I'm going to read this, but I thought it sounded interesting enough, and I'm mostly getting it to check out the author, to be honest, so fingers crossed I like it. The next two books are related, and that is The Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon, both by Thomas Harris. So Silence of the Lambs is the very famous horror movie, obviously, but it is based off a book, and Red Dragon is the first book in that series, so it's actually set before Silence of the Lambs. And it's about Hannibal Lecter, who is a vicious serial killer. And as far as I could tell, both books actually seem to have the same plot, which is that there is a new serial killer and an FBI agent, or some kind of agent, requires the help of Hannibal Lecter, who is still imprisoned, to find out this what's the deal with this new serial killer and track him down and stuff. I don't know how much I'll enjoy these. I've wanted to read Silence of the Lambs for a while now, and I picked up Red Dragon because I thought it also sounded interesting, and I kind of want to read them in order, even though I know it's not really necessary, but part of me can't let that go. But yeah, I'm intrigued. I've never seen the movie, and I'm hoping the book is good. There should be a lot of psychology stuff going on, which I do like, and also some thriller elements. So it should be right up my street. The next book I'm very excited about, and that is The Night Olivia Fell by Christina McDonald. This came on my radar because it was on Goodreads' highest rated thrillers that have been released in 2019 so far. So I heard about it on there, and then it went to the Kindle Daily Deal and I knew I had to get it. This has been described as a domestic thriller, and it's about a woman whose daughter, she gets a phone call one night and her daughter has fallen off a bridge into some icy water and is now on life support in a hospital, and the woman gets told that it was a complete accident, but she doesn't believe that. She finds out her daughter is 3 months pregnant, and also there's suspicious bruising around her wrists, so she decides to investigate and find out if it was really an accident, what happened to her daughter. Yeah, this sounds like a really solid thriller, and it's very promising that it's had so many good reviews so far, so hopefully it'll be really great. On a similar vein, I have The Couple on Cedar Close, which is by Anna Lou Weatherley. This was on my most anticipated releases for the January edition of that, and my mum has actually read this already and she absolutely loved it, so it was kind of got a lot of praise. Again, I think it was on that highest rated thrillers list of 2019. I can't quite remember what this is about, but I know it's a thriller about there's like a barbecue in a neighbourhood, and then something suspicious happens at the barbecue, and there's like neighbourhood secrets. Again, it's kind of a domestic thriller, set in a kind of small area type thing. I'm definitely going to read this sooner rather than later because my mum keeps nagging me to read it because she really liked it, and hopefully I like it as much as she did. The next book was an impulse buy, but it was a very sensible impulse buy. That is Down to the Woods by MJ Arlidge. So I forget what number we're up to in the series, but this is part of the Helen Grace series, Detective Inspector Helen Grace, and MJ Arlidge has written either 8 or 9 books now, I think, about this detective inspector, and every single one of them that I've read has been really, really good. I stopped reading around the 6th or 5th one, I think, but I binge read them all one summer about 2 years ago, and I really loved them. They've all got really great concepts. So I think the first one is about they keep finding pairs of bodies, and one of them is alive and the other one is dead, and someone is like kidnapping people and forcing them to choose which one's gonna die. There's another one where something about arson is happening. I can't remember the concepts for them now, but they're all really good and they're all named after kind of like nursery rhyme things. So this is just the latest one of those. I do need to read Love Me Not, and I think that's the only one I'm missing first, but I think I'm going to do a reread of these series maybe near the end of this year, and I'll definitely read this one when I do that. Next one I was super hyped about and still hyped about, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was 99p on the British Amazon Daily Deal thing, and I immediately snapped it up because I've been wanting this book for ages. It's only out in hardcover in the UK, or at least I've only seen it in hardcover, which means it's about £10 to £15 depending on where you buy it from, and I've been coveting it for ages, and then it came on the Kindle Daily Deal and I was so happy because I prefer reading ebooks. This is like a contemporary about a band. I can't remember when it's set. It's not set in modern day, and it's basically told in various different forms. So there's like interviews and recordings of conversations and things, and like fan comments and magazine pages or whatever, and it's all about this band. And I know that the band break up, and it's sort of based off Fleetwood Mac, I think, but yeah, I've heard really great things about this. I'm very excited to finally get around to reading it. The next one is The Definition of an Impulse Buy, and that is Riding So High by Joe Goodden. So this is about the Beatles and drug culture, and that's all I know. I don't have a particularly strong interest in the Beatles. I am from Liverpool, where the Beatles are like sacred. I don't have a particularly strong interest in them, but I've picked up a couple of books over the years and I haven't actually read any of them. I've got one that's about like the meaning of their lyrics, which I find quite interesting, and I picked up this one mainly because it was cheap, and I don't know a lot about that time period, and I feel like I would like to know more about the kind of drug culture and how it interacted with the Beatles and fandom. So I'm hoping this will be really interesting for me, and I won't just be bored. Next, I picked up the Kindle version of The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I read A Head Full of Ghosts, I think it was in February I read that. I really enjoyed it. I've been meaning to get to this one for a while, and yeah, it's a horror book about this family who go to a cabin, and then I know there's people trying to kill the daughter of the family because they believe that it'll prevent the apocalypse, and I think it's about her two dads trying to protect her, and that's kind of all I know about the plot. But yeah, I really like Paul Tremblay's stuff, so I'm excited to have this. The next book is The Flower Girl by Alice Clark-Platts. This, I mentioned I think in my Thrilling Thrillers tag video, or I mentioned it in some video because the cover I found really eye-catching and I do really like that cover. I've seen it advertised in train stations a lot and I didn't really know anything about it, but it went onto the Kindle Daily Deal, so I thought I'd pick it up. And it's a thriller about two women who I think when they were children they were known as the Flower Girls because one of them died. And I think one of them was convicted of the murder and the other one was giving an identity, like a new identity. And then years later another child has died. It sounds suspiciously similar to a book I bought a few months ago, which was The Orchid Girls, which I still haven't read yet. And I'm pretty sure that had a similar plot. And I've read a couple of thrillers with the same plot, but I usually like this type of plot. And this one at least is quite well known. So I don't know when I'll get around to reading it. I haven't read The Orchid Girls yet. I haven't read a lot of thrillers yet. But I could not pick it up when the cover has become so iconic to me. The next book I picked up specifically because it was Mental Health-a-thon in May, and that is Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven? Yeah, Jennifer Niven. This is a book about a girl who is plus-sized and being bullied because of it, and a guy who is one of the popular guys, but he is prosopagnosia, which, if you don't know, is a condition where you can't recognise faces, you can't retain memory of faces, so everyone you see is a stranger to you. It's a really fascinating condition. I did quite a lot of it on my degree because I went to the University of York and there's quite a couple of people who specialise in it there. So I was really fascinated by this condition, and I've never read a book where it's been featured, so I didn't get around to it in May, but I'm quite intrigued to read this, probably purely because it's got a character with that condition and I think that's really interesting. But yeah, I think it's a contemporary. I'm not sure what the plot is beyond that. I think they befriend each other and possibly there's romance. Who knows? The next book is Cut Reality by Zack. This I could not buy when I heard the premise. It's got one of my weaknesses in, which is that it is about a reality TV show, and when these people are on this reality TV show, one of them commits suicide, and their suicide gets broadcast to the world, and there's some kind of suspicious circumstances surrounding that. I read Dead Famous by Ben Elton, which is a book with a very similar premise, and I absolutely loved it. And since then, I've found a couple of other books, I haven't read any of them yet, but I found a couple of other books that have a similar premise. I have a strong fascination with reality TV, and it is the psychology aspect. It sounds like rubbish when I say that, but it is genuinely, I enjoy watching people react, particularly if those people are nothing like me as a person. Me watching their interactions is absolutely fascinating to me. I think it's a great concept to base a thriller or a mystery around, because it is purely about how people are interacting and there's not a lot of outside elements. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to read this. I think I might read it over summer. That's when I read Dead Famous and it worked really well as like a holiday book. Next book, I can't remember where I heard about it from. I think it might have been the Books in the Freezer podcast, which I'll link down below anyway because it's a really good horror podcast. But it is Slashvivor by, oh gosh, Steven Kozeniewski and Stevie Kopas. I've definitely not pronounced that surname right, but this is a horror book and it's basically like Hunger Games in that it's about people get thrown into this arena which is full of themed serial killers. It sounds really like pulpy horror, it looks like really pulpy horror. It's gonna be a good reading time. And the final book is also like a pulpy horror one, and that is Creature by Hunter Shea. I'm not sure where I heard about this book. Again, I heard about it somewhere and it was on my radar, and then it went to the Kindle Daily Deal, so I just got it. But this is a horror book about this family who go on holiday in a forest and they get stuck in the cottage because there's some kind of monster outside stalking them. I'm not the biggest fan of creature-based horror, but I definitely heard good things about this one from somewhere, and it was enough for me to want to check it out. So yeah, so those are all the books, the ebooks that I bought in May. I also did a massive book haul in May, which I'll link down below if you haven't watched that yet. And I also have an audiobook haul coming up soon, so what we've learned is I buy too many books. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, it helps me out massively. And I hope to see you next time.